David, where are we? And who are we working with today?
We're in Baronscourt Estate outside Newton Stewart, and you're here visiting us, R J Woodland Services.
Yes, and if I have got this right, you oversee like the harvesting, the forwarding, and do a lot of the work getting in through the forest and stuff. Tell us a little bit about your job, because I think it's fascinating.
On sites there, I would go out and inspect them and draw up a plan of how that site could be worked with the machinery, whether you might need a bit of help with the excavator, maybe to dig lines if it's steep, or if it's soft ground, or the size of the trees as well. That limits sort of what machinery can go into it.
And when you say limits what machinery can go into it, what are you doing? Because I'm familiar with the terminology clear fell and thinning. So clear fell is just go to a block of trees and wipe.
That's right.
But you spend a lot of your time thinning.
That's right.
So like all these trees behind you have been picked. Is that part of your job as well?
Yep. My part of my job there is to mark the thinnings, so that tells the harvester driver what trees to take. So we're trying to maximise the quality logs sent to the mill, but also you're trying to retain the trees for the future seed source and for the next thinning as well.
And how does harvesting work? Are you on a chainsaw here or what?
Most of the time it's usually with machines now. In the past it was chainsaws. Most of the trees we come to, the harvester can cut them. There might be a small percentage they might need chainsaw operators to fell them, and then the harvester can. And
what type of harvester are you guys running here?
It's Massey Ferguson.
Now, do you know anything about that? Because I know zero about it. Gary and I one time at a show were let loose in a Ponce harvester, and I remember sitting up in there and it was like mission control. I thought I was in the Star Trek. Is that the kind of machine we're talking about here?
It is, yeah. There's a multitude of buttons to it.
Does it know what to do? I mean, it looks...
The computer's programmed to know what length to cut out to and the diameters of what the specification is, but it's down to the operator of how to fell the tree and grade the timber as well.
So what's behind you here? Give us an example. What, like, is this all specifically cut to a size, or...?
This timber behind us, it's all cut to 4.9 metre saw logs, so that's construction grade timber, so that'll be used in your roof trusses and internal walls.
And that goes off to a mill, and that Ponce is cutting that exactly to that, so you can do all of that, you can program to that, and then on down the pile of that as it goes up the trees. That's not 4.9.
They're 3.7s, so that's just a shorter grade log, but it's still used in construction grade timber.
Everything that's out in this line here will all go to a mill?
Yeah. It'll be either construction grade timber or fencing materials.
So you're a fan of the Ponce equipment. What way does the forwarder work? Can you tell us anything about it? Is that a hard job, or?
The forwarder is, like, you need to be able to manage the ground, so you're picking up bits of timber and you need to know how much of a load you can bring out. It's not all the time you can bring full loads out. You just need to judge the ground, so maybe you might have to take half a load out to compensate maybe for softer ground.
And would following in after the harvest to give you a bit of an idea whether it was soft or what sort of shape it was in? That's
right, like usually you can see what the ground's like after the harvest has been in, or if there's any muck coming through the brash matting.
And then you appeared today in a Valtra.
That's right, yeah. We have our own wee Valtra N121 with a Botex forwarding trailer.
And I see that Botex trailer there, and that's made in Scotland.
That's right, it's made down near Dumfries.
So what's the need for it then?
We would use that tractor and trailer combination for moving firewood around the estate up to the yard, and we'd also use a small thinning sites, or maybe secondary extracting it where a lorry can reach it, because not all sites we go to are.
But I would imagine it couldn't just, you just couldn't shape into where that forwarder's working today with that tractor and trailer, I wouldn't imagine.
No, it can't cover the same type of ground, but it can go over a certain amount of branches.
So the secret's brash.
Yeah, that's right.
To keep it up.
Branches, yeah.
Well, David, thanks for
no problem, you're
letting
welcome.
us have a look around.
Oh, it's good to have you here.
Lovely job. R J Woodland Services. Tell us a little bit about the business and how it has ended up here in this part of Northern Ireland, because you're not originally from here.
No, I originally came over to Northern Ireland as a student, forester from college. Worked on a private estate over here, went self-employed and started up R J Woodland Services. That was 15 years ago. So we've been working for the last 15 years throughout Northern Ireland. Everything to do with trees, timber, from planting, establishment, maintenance and harvesting.
And because we were out and we caught up with David, who works for you, but he looks mostly after the harvesting side of things.
That's right, yeah.
But another big part of what you do is in the planting side of
That's
things,
right,
which
yeah.
we were out with today and we were looking at it happening. Like, that's not just straightforward work.
No, there's a lot of planning has to go into the establishment.
And you run two systems from what we could see there today. We had more traditional system of what I would have known before, like a digger, literally pulling hole.
Yeah.
Then you also have another, you call it a mounder?
Yeah, continual mounder. Basically, it's in the 3-point linkage of the tractor, and it's 2 spades, and there's a wheel on the mounder. When it passes a sensor, it releases the hold for the spades. They flip over and create a mound. It's similar to the hinge mounding that would be done by the excavator. It's just a bit quicker. It leaves a firmer mound. When the digger flips a sod, it's a looser mound. The continual mounder leaves a firmer mound, which allows the mound to be planted quickly as well.
Is that sort of to do with sort of the mechanism of how it's the way it's just getting a nice pull through it
does,
and then
yeah.
tripped?
It pulls through and then it flips over and presses as it flips over.
Yes.
So it's sort of firming it up as it goes along.
Whereas the digger's technically
The digger's just
bucket in
dropping it, yeah.
and
That's
dropping
right.
it
That's
out.
dropping it, yeah.
And the tree's planted into the mound that's pulled out, not the hole that's left. I know sometimes your mind would think it would go into.
That's right, yeah. No, the trees are put onto the mound, lifts the tree up out of the worst of maybe the damp, wet ground, keeps it up out of the vegetation, also puts it into slightly looser soil, so it's sitting in a nicer bed of topsoil rather than compacted ground.
Now, when it comes to planting trees, all these bags behind you are literally baby trees.
That's correct, yeah.
And you were telling me you literally got a delivery of baby trees today.
That's correct, yeah.
And those little trees that are in those bags are 2 to 3 years old already.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
And you have a team of guys walking around after those mounds, plopping them in. But I couldn't get over the number of trees per hectare.
Yeah.
What's the planting rate?
2,500 trees per hectare is what we aim to establish at. That can vary, obviously, because everything's not set in stone, and when you're on the ground things can change, ditches and whatever, but we aim for 2,500 trees per hectare.
If the size of those little trees getting in are 3 years old, when am I coming in with a Ponce to cut her down and make a few quid?
With the commercial Sitka spruce conifer woodland, average age 18 is when we thin them, sometimes 15, from 15 onwards we thin them, and then really you're looking at 30 to 40 years for the harvest, final crop harvest.
Oh, so it's not a cash crop overnight job, really?
No, it takes time. We would manage the site for up to 5 years. Really, after 3-4 years, there's very little needs done. You can almost walk away. Certainly after 5 years, it should be a case in most cases of closing the gate and watching it grow.
It's not all been machinery.
No, we started off obviously manually. We moved into the harvesting side of the business with horses, and that was our first method of extracting the timber, was with the horses. We progressed from them onto the tractor, the trailer, and then onto the purpose-built machinery.
To get stuff done fast, it's the Ponce. Why Ponce?
We looked about when we were looking for our first purpose-built. To be honest, Ponce was one of the ones that it was there at the time, so we bought our first one, and really the backup, the service and the support from Ponce, couldn't fault it. So when it came time to change and upgrade any equipment, then I went back to Ponce.
What's your favourite bit of your job and your business of what you do?
I think it has to be getting trees in the ground It's taking a suitable site and seeing it in 3, 4, 5 years' time, well established and growing on, and knowing that that's the future of the forest industry.
And would you like to see the forest industry, obviously, continuing to grow?
I think there's huge scope for the forest industry in Northern Ireland to grow further. The average farm size in Northern Ireland is very small, which sort of dictates a lot of the growth in the industry, but there's an awful lot of ground would be much more suitable to forestry than it is to agriculture in certain places here.
Well, how do I go about it? So if I have a block of ground that I don't really want to farm and it's not really viable renting it out for agriculture, do I just ring you and you come and plant trees?
Basically, it starts normally with a phone call or an email. We then get sent some farm map through. We can then check the ground for any priority habitats, if there's any designations in the ground or whatever, and then we follow up with a site visit. That normally happens around April, May, June time, with the application closing around about August, September. We try to get the maps done, the costings done, and get the application in for the landowner, which allows us then to plant it the following season.
Don't ring you today and plant trees tomorrow kind of thing?
No,
it takes a bit of time.
It takes a bit of time. Really, you're thinking a year ahead.
It is an investment there, a time investment as well as a financial investment,
true,
because trees you're planting today, by the time they're getting harvested, you'll be in the wee Zimmer frame going around here.
Unfortunately,
But you know
that's
what I
very
mean?
likely, yeah.
Well, look, Ross, thanks very much for giving us an insight into
you're welcome.
your business, and it's been great being able to come and speak to you. It's been a great insight into this world.
No bother.
Cheers.
You're welcome. Thank you.